I'm Beth. Welcome to our 5th episode of Cooking with Beth, which is where I ramble incoherently and sort of teach you how to cook or bake something. Today's episode is all about Mother's Day, and the thing that I think of when I think of Mother's Day is Mother's Day brunch, because that's the thing that I always did for my mom when I was growing up. Is I always went and cooked her brunch, and I can't do that this year, even though she's only 3 hours away in Virginia. She's elderly, not that elderly. Sorry, Mom. I don't want to expose her, so we're going to have to put off seeing her for a little bit longer, and that makes me really sad. So in honor of her, we're going to be making 2 recipes today. We're going to be making a mixed berry muffin that also is plenty adaptable, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And the other recipe we're going to be making is something that she really loves that I make. I made it for her one Mother's Day brunch, and then pretty much had to make it every Mother's Day brunch after, which is sweet potato hash. So, without any further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to make is a muffin. We're going to make a mixed berry variety, but if anyone's checked out the recipe that I have borrowed from Sally's Baking Addiction, you know how much I love Sally's Baking Addiction. That's obviously like my #1 baking website. It talks about that this is a master muffin batter, which means it's really infinitely adaptable. She gives at the end of the recipe a lot of different variations that you can do. Today we're going to do the mixed berry variety. The other thing that's pretty infinitely varietal in this is not only the fixings that you put in to the batter, but the way you top it. We're going to do like a crunchy sugar topping. You could do a crumb topping or streusel topping. You could do a glaze. Those are all real options, so you can really mix or match based on what you have in your fridge and your pantry. But today, like I said, mixed berries. Technically, this mixed berries is raspberry and blueberry, because that's what Costco had. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the batter. What do we do? Oh, we're going to put the dry ingredients together first. So, sorry, I have so much stuff right here. It's kind of overwhelming. 1 3/4 cup of flour. It's regular all-purpose flour. Hey, I think I finally got rid of some of that really clumpy flour, which should make everybody really happy. I don't have to sift this one. It mostly makes Corey happy because then he doesn't have to wash the sifter. You put it in the dishwasher. We're getting better at the miming communication. Just so 1 3/4 cup. Just so you know, we understand each other approximately 1.2% of the time. It's very approximate.
You get to use your favorite 3/4 cup.
Oh, I know. This is like the greatest thing that you brought to our marriage, aside from yourself.
Glad I came in #2.
Is it aside from yourself? I did not assign an order. I just said it was one of the items.
Oh, okay.
It was a non-numbered list. Okay, so we're also going to whisk in here baking powder. My handy dandy clever girl. I'm not sponsored by any of these products or also by Coca-Cola, but if they were interested, I wouldn't complain. If they wanted to just send me like a year's supply of Diet Coke, that'd be great. Baking soda, 1 teaspoon of each. Sorry, Mom, I couldn't find any flowers to put in my Diet Coke can, and that would also mean that I would have to have not Diet Coke in the can or be able to drink out of it, which was a problem. But it was a cute idea. Maybe next time.
Well, because we don't have any empties you can use.
Well, I mean, then I'd have to put like water or sand in the bottom so it wouldn't fall over. But mainly the flour was the problem.
Somebody would eat it.
Yeah, my cat Earl really likes flowers. It's unfortunate. I think most people's cats really like flowers. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Ooh, not that much salt. Don't measure like me. And cinnamon. It's a massive cinnamon container from Costco. Okay, and it says whisk, but you know what whisk really means, guys? You take one of the... We don't go like this. What even is that? You want me to shake it like that? Yeah, I told you, incoherent rambling. You just take one of your measuring spoons you just measured with, kind of whisk it up so it's like evenly distributed. You don't actually have to dirty your whisk. Okay, so now we have those. Now we're going to make our basic batter, which means we're going to start with a stick of butter or a half a cup of butter.
For those who weren't on last week, you may want to reiterate where the apron came from.
Oh yes, thank you for adding that, Corey, especially because Zoli is in the hospital or was in the hospital, and I know she's not doing very well right now. Zoli Heller made this incredible apron for me. She runs a Snarkery, which is this really cute little store. She hand makes a bunch of beautiful things, so you should check it out. And I really appreciate her making this apron for me, so thank you, Corey, for reminding me to do that. Where are we? Oh, brown sugar. You can also use granulated sugar. That's another one of the infinitely adaptable versions of this recipe. But I like brown sugar, so we're going to use brown sugar. And guess what we're going to use again? Handy dandy 3/4 scoop. I think the recipe actually tells you to cream the butter and then add the sugar, but we're not doing that. Sorry. Let me put this actually back here. We're going to use that later. Okay. Hopefully this is not too loud. I'm not using the stainless steel bowl anymore because someone complained that their eardrums were going to explode. Now, when it says to cream together the butter and the sugar, that doesn't mean just mix it up so that everything's incorporated. It means you want it to be one amalgamated, lightened, like the texture is light and fluffy. You don't, and that actually takes like quite a bit of time and a higher speed. So if you're not doing that, your baked goods are going to have kind of a, what shall we say, what's the word I'm looking for? Again, another word I don't know. They'll be very dense. That's a good word. Because right now what we're basically doing is adding air in. Because you want your muffins to be light and fluffy and full of yummy things. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay. And then we're going to scrape down the bowl. As needed, it says, but it probably needs it now. Okay. And then, I don't have this recipe very memorized. Eggs. Voila. I feel like every time I crack an egg directly into the container, I'm playing with fire. Now I'm going to wash my hands like a good daughter, since we are making these in honor of Mother's Day.
Just so you know, some people are having video issues.
Oh, okay. Is anyone actually watching?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's having video issues? My mom?
There are a couple people having video issues.
Mom, you don't want to know how he's smirking when he's saying that. Okay, so we're going to mix the eggs in. 2 eggs. Now we're going to add the sour cream and the vanilla. Now she also says that you can also use a plain yogurt or a Greek yogurt or something if you'd like. I have sour cream, so that's what we're using. Now, if I was not doing this in front of you, I would 100% never measure this. However, I am doing it in front of you.
Yeah, well, you figured out one of the problems. Internet Explorer.
Oh.
Don't use IE.
Okay, who was using IE? He doesn't want to say. Sorry, Mom. Actually, it was probably Dad that was using Internet Explorer. This is a family show, you guys. I accidentally said the F word last week. I'm going to try not to do that again. So hopefully I don't do anything that requires it. We really are going to need more sour cream.
Friend?
Friend, that's right. I used the word friend. Okay, so we're going to add our sour cream, and I would just like to reiterate I actually measured this. Which I've never done pretty much in my entire life. But I can't tell you that you're supposed to measure things when you're baking it. I'm not going to do it, so don't be like me. That's like the theme for this show. Don't use the F word, boys and girls.
You told me that that's the one thing you should always do measuring with is baking because it has to be precise, unlike other things.
That's right. See, I told you I can't say those things and then not do it. So that was me measuring the sour cream. Half a cup of sour cream or plain yogurt at room temperature. Now the thing that the sour cream or the yogurt does is it makes it kind of gives a really nice tang to the batter, which offsets the sugar, and it also helps keep them light and fluffy. We're also going to add our vanilla. By the way, we were at Costco yesterday, or whenever we went, last weekend. God, what day is it even? I don't think you noticed, but the vanilla was down at only $25 a bottle instead of $30, Corey.
Ooh. Went from platinum to gold costs.
Yeah. I also don't usually measure vanilla, but here we are. It's a quarantine. We're all doing weird stuff. Okay. Okay. Let me make sure I haven't missed any ingredients. Okay. We are going to beat at medium speed for 1 minute, approximately, and then turn mixture up to high speed until the mixture is combined and creamy. Sorry, I called it really loud. That's totally fine. You don't need to whip it to death. Okay. Pour the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Something I don't understand is you can't really pour dry ingredients. Like, they're not really a pourable consistency. Like, just one of my weird wonderings. I was telling Corey last night that I usually put one deep existential question into every book I write. And maybe the next book will have the deep existential question of how do you pour dry ingredients into wet ingredients? Nobody would care about that. A funnel. And you definitely want to do this part on low speed. And again, I'm using the hand mixer, but you can always use a stand mixer. I would at least use a hand mixer or a stand mixer because, like I said, you really want to whip things pretty well, like the eggs especially. Sorry, I'm just kind of cleaning up here. Since we're doing 2 recipes, I'm having to be very adaptable, and I don't have a staff here because I can't get Earl to do anything for me. He doesn't have any thumbs, so. Also, he's not very cooperative, even as cats go. And the rest of my staff is in the middle of being the videographer, so. Okay, so we're gonna get this mixed up. Now, once you start adding the flour, the thing you want to remember, if you want nice, light, airy, fluffy muffins, is you do not want to beat this to death. So flour has gluten in it, and now I'm going to probably step all over Angela's microbiology here, or whatever science thing I'm doing. If you activate the gluten too much, it will get very dense and hard, and so you will not have light, airy, fluffy muffins. So you want to just incorporate it and then leave it alone. Don't overmix it. So we are going to add now a 1/4 cup of milk. If you can see, this is very thick batter, which the milk kind of thins it out a little. You can also use, like, for example, if you wanted to use almond milk, that would be delicious. You could use buttermilk if you had buttermilk. Buttermilk is always fantastic in baked goods. You could use regular milk. I'm using half and half. Did someone say something weird about milk? He's smiling. because I have a lot of it. And I'm not using heavy whipping cream today, so everyone's waistline should be very appreciative. I feel like I've used that in like every recipe since we've started cooking together. So, 1/4 cup. Now the other thing I should mention is that when, and I did not learn this until a little bit later in life, when you are measuring wet ingredients, you should always use the wet ingredient measuring cup. For some reason, it's like different slightly. If you used one of these, it probably would not make a big difference. But it's actually way easier to use this one because then you just pour it in. You don't worry about it like going all over the counter, which inevitably happens to me. So that's just an FYI. Oop, I'm already making a mess. Now the other reason you don't want to beat this to death is because you've added the flour and you might have pockets of flour and that tends to explode everywhere, which is not going to make the person that cleans your kitchen up very happy. If it's your husband, it really doesn't make him very happy. I think we've already told this, the tomato story. Maybe I should tell it again. I made this recipe once where it called for whole canned tomatoes. It was like a tomato sauce type of thing. And the recipe called for you to crush the tomatoes in your hand. Like, so it would be like a very rustic crushed tomato experience. And the first one I crushed, it like exploded and went all over the ceiling and the walls and the cabinets. And Corey runs in. It looked like I'd murdered somebody. Corey runs in. Oh my God, don't do that again. And I was like, but that's what the recipe says. So I proceeded to crush all the tomatoes. And we were still cleaning some of that tomato sauce up like what, like 5 years later when we moved out? Yeah, it was on the ceiling. So, but it was, I was trying to be an authentic Italian, even though I'm not an authentic Italian. Okay. So we're just getting the last little mixed bit here. Okay. Actually, I'm going to keep that. Now we're going to mix our mix-ins. I feel like my past history working at Dairy Queen has helped me for this. I'm using, like I said, mixed berries. She has a bunch of different variations. White chocolate raspberry, that sounds delicious. Lemon poppy seed, we can't do those because Corey hates poppy seed. Chocolate streusel, that sounds delicious. Anyway, pretty much whatever you want to put in. Any kind of chips or nuts, berries, fruit. The one thing I will say is if you're doing like apples or something, make sure that they're diced pretty fine because you don't want huge chunk of apple unless you do want huge chunks of apple. She also has variations in here for a jumbo and a mini version. I like just a regular muffin because it's just the perfect size for when you want something sweet in the morning when you get up way too early to write things or go to meetings. So very carefully. You do not want to mash the shit out of this. Oh, I used the S word, but I didn't use the F word yet, so that's good. Progress. You do not want to mash the shit out of these, okay? Part of the joy is biting into a blueberry muffin and you get a whole blueberry in the batter, suspended. If I mash it into like nothingness, then you don't get that. Also, this recipe called for 1.5 cups of fruit. This is way more than 1.5 cups of fruit, but I like a lot of fruit in my muffins. So, too bad. So sad.
So is that where they get the term folding?
Exactly that. So I'm very gently using my spatula to just kind of fold over the batter and mix everything together. So this way, as you can see, the fruit is still pretty much intact. And there is a lot of fruit in these, but I think it's going to be fine. It is going to be fine. I'm telling everybody right now it's going to be fine. So, like I said, we're using regular... I have more. Some technical difficulties are to be expected. I only lost one. It was a yellow one. We'll keep that one for Earl. He'll like to find it. And we'll come downstairs in the morning and it'll be like shredded into 1,000 bits. I'm using liners. You could also spray this with cooking spray to make sure they come. Corey shaking his head. If I was making these and I was cleaning up the pan, I would probably use just no liners. But he likes liners because it means cleanup is easier. And the other thing we're going to use to make things really easy, remember when we used the cookie scoop for the cookies? This is just a slightly different, bigger version. It makes nice, beautiful, even muffins. She says fill completely, but we're not going to fill quite completely because in my experience, that's a recipe for disaster. So that's pretty full. Maybe not completely. So I know it's going to be a really weird Mother's Day, like kind of like across the country. I hope you guys are able to maybe Zoom with your moms if they're still around. We will be having a Zoom with ours, my sister and I. I wonder if she's watching. Hi, Mandy. She's probably not watching. Mandy, next time I want to see how many White Claws you can drink during a Zoom session with our parents, because I think you like creamed 3 last time, and that was pretty impressive.
Sorry, we polished off a couple bottles of wine.
Yes, we did. That's one thing that I have to say about the quarantine, is that like we've actually managed to, instead of add to our wine supply, diminish our wine supply, because we are drinking wine and also not at the same time going out to the wine store to Total Wine. Of course, you keep trying to persuade me because he keeps getting these advertisements on his phone. Oh, so-and-so winery is offering this really great discount. And it's like, we're trying not to do that right now. Because we're actually like down to what, 4 extra boxes? Yeah, he's nodding. And that's extra boxes, not including the bottles we have in our wine fridge and the 2 wine racks we have. That's just additional we don't have room for. We have a lot of wine. So instead of doing a glaze or a streusel or a crumb topping, I'm going to do this sugar. It's called white sparkling sugar. It's called Sprinkles. This is like a Wilton brand. You could also use turbinado sugar. This is basically like the same thing. It just needs a nice little crunchy top, a nice different kind of texture. Also, it's easy.
So if you said use chips, if I use chips, then maybe I'd want to put Jimmy's on top?
Why would you put sprinkles on a muffin?
I'm asking.
No.
Aren't you sprinkling those on the muffin?
Yeah, but this is like this is a topping, not really. It's not the same thing.
It's a sprinkle action.
Jimmy's don't really have any flavor or purpose, except to look pretty.
You were talking about that adding a crunch. Jimmy's would add a crunch.
It would look stupid and weird. Bad idea. Don't listen to him. Everyone on there is probably like, I'm going to add sprinkles to my muffins. Okay, so the one thing that's kind of fussy about this recipe that is too bad is that it does ask for you to bake these first at 425 for 5 minutes, and then reduce the oven to 350 for 15 or 18 minutes. So that's a little bit fussy. But you know what? That's just you setting a timer on your phone or a watch or whatever. And Corey's going to be doing that for us. No? He's not? Okay. That's good to know. And 5 minutes at 425. Okay. I have actually some extra batter, but I will bake the rest of this in a minute. We're not going to attempt to do 2 rounds. It's just too confusing. I can go over there. Sorry, slight delay while we change the amount of things that we're doing so we can do the second recipe. Because I'm feeling extra ambitious today. Does anyone have any questions on changing over stuff? No? not a question, but a comment. If you haven't gotten Terrible Things or Impossible Things for free yet, they are free through tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, Friday night, so make sure you do. It's a really great opportunity. You can also add audio by Kurt Graves for $7.49. I'm like my own advertisement. Kurt did an amazing job recording these books. If you haven't heard him do a narration, you should, because he's amazing. I do remember, I have a funny story about Kurt I'm going to tell you really quick. So, the first time I ever talked to him, Tantor had just agreed to record these books for me, and we decided on using Kurt as the narrator, and he messaged me on Facebook, and he says, so, let me understand this. You have 5 main characters that are all guys, and they're all from the same state, and they're all around the same age, and have like sort of the same ethnicity. And I said, yes. And he says, are you trying to kill me? Yes, Kurt, that was what I was trying to do. I say this, he says this, because basically he has to assign a different voice. Each of the books is mainly about two of the guys together, but there's lots of scenes that have all 5 of them, so that makes it really hard. So you're welcome, Kurt. I'm here just to make your life more difficult. I started like watching my food shows and like paying attention to how they prep things so that I can also just, so weird. The things you start paying attention to, how they have the stuff set up on the back counter. Okay, now we're gonna make sweet potato hash. And I've kind of adapted this recipe from a recipe that I started making. I mean, I'm trying to remember how old I was the first time I made this for my mom for Mother's Day. I was probably in my early 20s. I had probably graduated from college, but not too much. Like I was probably like 22 or 23. And I'm making an adapted version. I've added a couple of things to add some protein, because that's always important. If you wanted to add like a sausage component, we're gonna bake. You are the worst. Like absolutely the worst. My husband is like on the dirtiest mind. He just went and stuck his head into the couch so he wouldn't be laughing on camera. If you wanted to add a protein component that wasn't eggs, which we will be adding, like a spiced meat item, since apparently I'm not allowed to use the word sausage anymore, without some people making it really dirty. Some people, I mean you, Corey, you could do that as well. You just add it to the end, or if it's cooked, that probably makes it easier. I'm gonna like peel these sweet potatoes now, or yams. These are probably yams. Anything, they call these sweet potatoes, but they're really yams. They've got like the bright orange skin. And normally the only time you use these is at Thanksgiving, but they're a really versatile vegetable. They make a beautiful roasted vegetable side. My problem is that Corey doesn't really like them, so he won't be eating any of this. But if my mom was here, she would eat it. She loves it. My dad would probably eat it too, because he'll eat just about anything. I don't remember if Miranda likes this. Oops. How much did I say? 18? 15 to 18 minutes.
Don't you have to open the oven and let 100 degrees out and then close it again?
How was that?
That was only about 10 degrees.
That's okay. It's opening something else. There's some secret compartment in the oven. I don't know how ovens are engineered. I'm a writer, okay? I don't write about oven designers yet. Maybe if I get really bored with chefs.
So ironically, you were talking about when you first made
Sausage.
this was when you got out of college.
Yeah.
And now that you're showing other people how to make it, it's taken all that time to pay off your student loan.
Wow, I'm so glad you chose to announce that particular fact on the live. Yes, I just paid off my last student loan, what was it, yesterday? Congratulations to me. Thank you for buying books for me because that made that possible. Probably should have peeled these ahead of time, but I was like all into like being authentic. They're these new peelers are actually pretty crappy.
You got an old style one in there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going and getting it. The one that I wouldn't let you throw away.
Yeah.
Only like 100 times easier.
You know what the difference is, don't you?
I'm sure it has some kind of exposed blade and it's not child friendly.
There you go.
Kind of like this podcast or Facebook Live or whatever this thing is. Though I haven't used the F word yet.
We have a request to do it over Zoom instead of Facebook.
Yeah, I also have been uploading them on YouTube for anyone that can't watch out live. So maybe we'll try to do that next. When I first started doing this, I honestly had no idea that anyone would want to watch me do anything for any amount of time. So I'm pretty much as surprised by you as you are by all this. So we can definitely look into different ways to do it. Corey's really good with Zoom. He uses a lot for work. So maybe we'll figure out a way to do that. Facebook Live does have a lot of limitations. So I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg is really happy with us right now. Making a huge mess. Normally I would do this in the sink and probably still make a huge mess.
Then clog up the garbage disposal.
And then I would probably clog up the garbage disposal. No, I've done that like enough times that I'm pretty conscious of what I put down the garbage disposal. There was that one time I did it. I mean, everyone does it at least one Thanksgiving. I definitely have done it for one Thanksgiving, clog the garbage disposal. I know my mom has done it. This is a Mother's Day themed episode. She's definitely done it at least once on Thanksgiving. So now we're going to cut these into small dice. Don't cut things like that. Don't be like me. Probably needed a bigger knife for this. Oh well. Okay, I'll move these to the side so you can see what I mean by say small dice. Because the key is that we want to be able to these to cook evenly. You want to have slightly as much as you can similar sized pieces, because then it will cook in a similar amount of time. We are going to do probably about halfway through the cooking on the stove, and then we're going to finish the cooking in the oven with the eggs. Now, if you did not want to have eggs, if you don't like eggs, feel free to just eat it directly out of the pan or serve it out of the pan. You don't have to cook eggs in it. That's actually the original recipe did not have eggs. But I really love eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. And I was trying to find a protein component that wasn't sausage. But you could also put sausage in there. If you want. Sorry, this is a very thick sweet potato. That's what she said. Okay. Any other questions while I'm continuing to dice these things? No? The one thing about this recipe is I will say it is a very prep heavy recipe, but once you have done all the preparation work and the prep work, it's actually very easy, which is why I probably decided to not do the prep ahead of time, because then there would have been no recipe to show you. It would have been like me cooking these things in a pan and then like that would have been it. It would have been really boring. I can't remember how many. I think it said the recipe called for 2 pound sweet potatoes. I think we're actually not going to cut this one up. We probably should. So to continue the advertisement, if you haven't gotten Terrible Things and Impossible Things for free, like I said, they are free through Friday. I also have put Hazardous Things and Extraordinary Things in pre-order, so if you haven't checked those out, you should. We did the cover reveal last week, so you can see the beautiful job that Kate did on the covers, and the blurbs are up and everything. I'm super excited about these books. Hazardous Things is with the beta readers right now, and the feedback has been super positive. Everyone really is enjoying it. If Terrible Things was a little bit too angsty for you, don't worry, this one is not angsty at all. Well, it's less angsty. Okay, I think I'm going to get a different bowl. Actually, but wait, there's more. Using my carrying mechanism to actually carry the sweet potatoes over. Now, if there's a vegetable in this that you don't really like, I mean, I probably wouldn't suggest substituting the sweet potato because that's the whole point. But like if you don't like bell pepper, for example, you can skip the bell pepper. If you don't like green onions, you can always substitute chives or parsley, or you can skip that altogether. It's really an adaptable recipe. I have a personal hatred of these little bell pepper seeds. I know they don't actually taste like anything, but they make me kind of neurotic. So if you see me neurotically trying to get rid of every single one of them, that's why. By the way, A+ suggestion, Corey, on the garbage bowl thing. I should listen to Rachel Ray more often. Actually, I listen to her all the time, but that was a really good idea. I just don't think my garbage bowl was very big. I don't think it was big enough. Now, you can cut these into slices. I prefer a dice. My husband really likes things, especially peppers, cut into very small pieces. I would not cut things into very small pieces because we are going to saute this on the stove and then bake it for 10 minutes. So if you cut it into very small pieces, you will have like mush, which I guess if you liked mush, that's something that would be good. But if you didn't like mush, that would not be a result you would enjoy. Meanwhile, I will never be making a recipe that has this much prep work in it again. But the good news is I have yet to cut myself on camera. Not that I haven't tried. So after we dice up our pepper, we're going to do our onion. And that I like to do like more of like a slice. Also, I'm kind of obsessive about onion skins. Maybe I'm not the only one that kind of gets like, I'm like, must get every ounce of weird skin off the onion. Please tell me that's not just me. Like this little piece. Ugh. There, I almost tried to really cut myself. Okay, we're just gonna slice this. Like I said, you don't want like really small pieces because otherwise you're gonna end up with like mush. And that's not something you want. God, these little seeds are everywhere. Okay.
And what was it Rachel said the other day about onions and tears? Did she say just suck it up?
Yep.
Okay.
I have never ever, of course I wear contacts, so that really helps. Okay, I'm gonna get the pan on. Okay, so we're gonna first start by adding quite a bit of a neutral oil, like a vegetable oil or some other kind of oil like that, into the bottom of a pan. I'm using a cast iron skillet. You can use a regular skillet. Just whatever you use, make sure it is oven friendly, because we are going to be putting it in the oven. Now, not at a high temperature. It's going to go in at 375. So it doesn't have to be a super high temp capable pan. Like, I think that my stainless steel skillets are like up to 450 degrees, and the same thing with my nonstick, but make sure you check it before you use it. Oh, I didn't chop up the green onions. Well, we'll get to sauteing first, and then I'll do it. I probably didn't preheat enough, but that's okay. It can get going. So first we're putting in the red onion, and you can use other kind of color onion if you like. I just think red onion makes it look really pretty. It just like is a really pretty contrast between the bell pepper and then the orange of the sweet potato. And that's one of the things when you're cooking is sometimes like the aesthetics do matter and they make things taste better. In my opinion anyway. Like, does anyone really like gray food? I mean, gravy is, I guess, kind of brown sometimes. But gray food is not typically appetizing. So yeah, we're going to let this saute for a minute. I'm going to chop these green onions really fast. Green onion bowl. Look how prepared I was. Aren't you impressed, Corey? He's impressed. He's trying not to show it, but he can't help himself. These are like some fatty green onions, so I'm going to actually slice them in half before I dice them, because they're like seriously hardcore green onions. It's funny because the last batch I got were like little dinky things, and these ones look like, did I just lose some over the side? What? Time? I think we're okay. That's the only thing about green onions is they like to make a run for it because they're circular. Okay. Don't think I got it down before. Okay, so we're going to be using half of these after when we're about to put it into the oven. The other half is going to be for our garnish at the end. So, like I said, we're going to be cooking the sweet potatoes for a pretty long time and on the stove and then in the oven. So you don't want to cook the peppers and the onions too far. You just kind of want to give them a little head start. And I'm on medium heat because I'm using a gas stove, and that's usually pretty high. This is going to go off in a minute. Ooh, those are looking good. Those are done. So didn't those turn out gorgeous? And you can see they're almost a little sparkly. And like we talked about the aesthetics, like I think that the blueberry and the raspberry are really pretty together. So I'm increasing the heat a little bit because this is going to bake at 375 when we put the eggs in. Whoop! It's still cooking. It's fine. 5-second roll. Okay, now I'm going to put the sweet potatoes in.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, I probably needed like 2.5 of those sweet potatoes. This will be okay. and the seasonings right now. So, like we talked about, salt and pepper, fairly heavy. I mean, this is a potato type. You don't want it to be bland. The magical spice, though, in this particular dish is cumin, which is one of my favorite spices, and it's one of Corey's favorite spices. I forgot to turn that off. I always forget to do that. How much did the recipe call for? These will cook down a little bit. So if you are doing just the sweet potato hash, so just this part without baking it in the oven with the eggs, I would recommend potentially parboiling the potatoes first, which means you boil them until they're only like halfway cooked, so like maybe 6 to 8 minutes. So that way, by the time you put them into the pan to saute them and to get that nice crust, they're already halfway cooked, so you don't have to spend so much time on the stove like this, babysitting them. As it is, we're gonna set these all in kind of a flat line, and we're just gonna let them sit for a minute. And if you can see, there's like steam coming up from the saute, and it's basically steaming the potatoes. You don't want to put a lid on though, because we want it to get crisp. If you put a lid on and you catch all that steam and the moisture, you're never going to get a crisp bottom on the bottom of the potatoes. And that's really what the word hash refers to, is kind of like that crispy brown bits of stuff that are sauteed together, usually with some form of egg. Obviously, corned beef hash is the most common type. It's one of Corey's favorite things. I don't usually make it at home for him though, because it's kind of labor intensive. But he likes to get it when we go out to breakfast. He doesn't usually like breakfast, so he has to come up with a few things that are like, not breakfast-like for him to get. Corned beef hash is usually the most obvious one. So, and the other trick here, and I know we talked about this a couple of times before, is when you're trying to form a crust on something, that means you don't mess with it. See, I almost used the F word there, but I didn't. I was good. My mom would be so proud, because this episode is in honor of her, so it should be mom friendly. You don't want to touch it. Just let it go for like a good 3 or 4 minutes. What does this say? Stirring occasionally for 10 minutes. That means for like 2 or 3 minutes at a time, you don't frickin' touch it, okay? Just leave it alone. The one thing I'm going to touch, though, yeah, we're going to break out into MC Hammer's Don't Touch This at any moment. Let's see, this looks like a good one. Oh, you can see that like one of the berries burst right there. I really hope these are cooked all the way through. Hey, reach behind you and get me a small plate. This is really hot. Ta-da! Okay, so now I don't have to burn my hand. Smells really good. Doesn't it smell good? So, and you can see, if you look inside, look how nice and moist that is and fluffy. And adding all that extra fruit did not hurt anything. In fact, it probably just made them better. But I'm going to have a little bite. That's good. That's really good. Okay. Now the trick is you do want to form some crusty bits, but you do not want to burn it. So when it says turn occasionally, I mean that means turn occasionally. I know Brittany wanted me to make a, what was it? What's the kind of eggs that are on Eggs Benedict? Not a coddle egg. What's the one you put in the water? I can't think of it.
Half cooked.
No. You could also, if you wanted to have eggs but you didn't want to cook the eggs in it, you could always just make a set of fried eggs and then, or whatever kind of those eggs are. Poached eggs, that's the word. You could always just serve that on top, so you do not have to bake it in the oven the way we're going to, but it makes it kind of a one-pan meal, and that's nice, isn't it? Especially if you're making this for like a brunch. Because the last thing you want to do when you wake up really early in the morning is like make a lot of complicated things, because that sucks. Like that individual omelet business, it's not fun. I'm going to eat more of this muffin. You just sit here and watch me eat this muffin. It's very fruity. Was I not chilling hard enough for Diet Coke? Okay. So I'm going to give this another couple minutes, and then we're going to make the wells for the eggs, and we're going to stick it in the oven. If I were you, I would have less sweet potatoes in this pan. So, another reason, don't be like me. You want a muffin, Corey?
Later.
Okay. He very much enjoyed the lemon bars, by the way. Of course, we both did. I got a lot of positive comments. Is there one left still? Oh, I think that one has your name on it. Something I really want to try, I've got some strawberries. I want to make like these muffins with strawberry chunks and then do like a lemon glaze on top and make like strawberry lemonade muffins. I think that'd be really good.
Would that be cool and refreshing?
It would. Something else you could potentially add to the batter is you could add orange or lemon zest. That would be really good too. So the reason I say I have too many sweet potatoes in here is I can't get a single layer. There's too much. So that's making it then to take longer to cook. So that's why I tell you, don't put this much in the pan. Okay, I'm going to sprinkle over half of my green onions. We're going to save the other half for the garnish at the end, which you probably won't be here for. But we'll put half in, and then I'll mix them up in a minute. This just adds a nice fresh component. Like I said, if you don't like it, you could add parsley, or you could do cilantro. You could also garnish with cilantro at the end. There's a lot of variations you could do to make this feel very fancy, even though it's really, as you can see, other than the prep work, not a difficult dish. It basically consists of a lot of me standing here staring at this thing. I also feel like I also make the sweet potatoes with orange dish for Thanksgiving, which is my sister's favorite dish. And I feel like I always struggle every year with that dish on getting the sweet potatoes cooked through properly. So this feels like very familiar to me. Okay, so we're going to do the eggs now. Now, remember how brave I am and how I crack my eggs into the batter? We're not going to do that here because that makes them really hard to manage. So we're going to crack them into a separate dish. It's just one dish. It is much easier to wash this dish than it is to try to fish shell out or to deal with a broken yolk or any of that crap. So we're not going to deal with it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make some wells for us to kind of slip our eggs into. A square spatula is probably not the best method for making a circular well, but that's okay. We're managing. I'm fine. That's the best tool. Just don't even bother. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, if it's not perfect, it'll probably look even better because it'll look like you made it, because you did. So I'm just going to slip this egg right in there. Now, isn't that pretty? I think that looks so pretty. Now, the one thing you want to remember to do is salt and pepper, season your eggs before you put them in the oven. Because like unseasoned potatoes, unseasoned eggs are not very good. So, got some salt, pepper, turn this off first so I don't set my mitts on fire. And that's just going to cook for like 10 minutes until just, I mean, if you like your eggs a little bit more well done, it's probably totally fine. You can let them cook all the way through. If you like a softer yolk, take them out a little bit sooner. When it comes out, I would garnish with some additional fresh green onions. I also have some crumbled feta cheese you could put on. You could put in chopped cilantro or chopped parsley or chives. Any of those would make a really beautiful addition to your dish. And I don't think you're going to wait for the next 10 minutes. I'll post a picture of what they look like when I'm done. Is there any questions? Yes.
It's more of a request for fruit pizza.
Oh yeah, Brittany suggested that. I do love fruit pizza. Corey, do you like fruit pizza? No, he's shaking his head. Brittany, that right there is why we haven't made fruit pizza, because you know what I would do? I would eat the entire thing. That's a problem. So, let's see. If Brittany comes to my house in North Carolina, we'll make fruit pizza and we'll share it. But yeah, other than that, no, I'm not going to eat the whole thing. Okay, next question. No more questions? Okay, well, I hope you guys have a beautiful Mother's Day, whether you're with your mothers or not. I always like to tell people the family is what you make of it, and sometimes our adopted families are more important than our regular families, and vice versa. So you just gather the people up close to you that are important and make them a beautiful brunch. And I will see you here next week.